Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are uncorking the science behind how alcohol interacts with the most fundamental part of you, your DNA. So, have you ever really thought about it? Why can one person have a couple of drinks and feel totally fine, while someone else feels the effects almost immediately? It's a super common question, but the answer is incredibly personal. Turns out, it's written right there in our genetic code. You've probably seen this. For some people, just one drink triggers this bright red flush across their face. And it's not just redness. It often comes with a headache and nausea. It's a really visible and pretty uncomfortable reaction. And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have people who seem to have this naturally high tolerance. They can drink more without showing the same outward signs of intoxication. And get this, it can even come down to our sense of taste. Some of us are literally hardwired to perceive alcohol as intensely bitter, which, as you can imagine, is going to have a big say in how much we drink or if we even want to drink at all. Okay, so to understand all these differences, we have to take a look at what's happening inside our bodies. Think of it like a highly specialized three-step assembly line running inside you every time you take a drink. So when you drink ethanol, that's the main type of alcohol in beverages, your body gets right to work. First, an enzyme converts it into a pretty nasty compound called acetaldehyde. Then, a second enzyme jumps in and turns that into a final, harmless substance called acetate. Now let's pause and focus on that middle step, because this stuff, acetaldehyde, is the real villain of the story. It's a highly toxic substance. It's even classified as a carcinogen, and it's responsible for a lot of the awful side effects of drinking, from hangovers to that facial flushing we talked about. So, what's controlling the speed and efficiency of this whole processing plant? How quickly do we make that toxic stuff? And more importantly, how fast can we get rid of it? Well, it all comes down to the instructions written in our DNA. This slide really zeroes in on the two main genetic supervisors, ADH1B and ALDH2. So if you have a fast version of the ADH1B gene, your body goes into overdrive on that first step, creating a massive surge of toxic acetaldehyde. Then, if you also have a slow or inactive version of the ALDH2 gene, you've got a problem. The second step gets jammed up, and that toxic stuff just hangs around in your system. And here's what that feels like. When that acetaldehyde builds up faster than your body can clear it, you get those immediate, really uncomfortable reactions. Your body is basically sounding the alarm, telling you it's dealing with a poison it can't handle. And this is not some rare thing. This specific genetic combo, especially that less effective ALDH2 gene, is found in nearly half of all people of East Asian descent. It's a really powerful, genetically driven protective mechanism that just makes drinking a very, very unpleasant experience. But wait, the story doesn't stop with just processing the alcohol. This is where it gets really interesting. Recent science has found a much more direct way that alcohol can actually talk to our DNA, and in a way, rewrite some of its instructions. Okay, so remember that final, harmless byproduct, acetate? Well, it turns out it doesn't just get flushed away. There's this enzyme called ACSS2 that grabs that acetate and carries it right into the command center of our brain cells, the nucleus, which is where all our DNA is stored. This is a total game changer. What this research shows is that the acetate from the alcohol you drink is used to make chemical marks on the proteins that package your DNA. It's a type of epigenetic change called histone acetylation. Now, to be perfectly clear, alcohol isn't rewriting the sequence of your DNA. That's the hardware. Instead, this is more like changing the software. It's changing how your cells read the instructions. Think of it like a dimmer switch for your genes, turning their activity up or down without actually changing the light bulb itself. And you can actually see the effect right here. This heat map shows what's happening in the brains of mice after drinking. On the left, in normal mice, you see this really distinct pattern of genes getting turned on or off. But look to the right. In the mice that are missing that ACSS2 enzyme, the pattern is just gone. The alcohol couldn't flip the same genetic switches in the brain's reward center. So this direct conversation between alcohol and our DNA is a huge discovery, but it's still just one part of a much bigger story. Our DNA has a whole bunch of other rules that shape our unique relationship with alcohol. For instance, the TAS2R3H gene basically controls the volume dial on how bitter we find things. Then you've got the GABRA2 gene, where different versions can make some people more sensitive to alcohol's calming effects. And another one, CYP2E1, actually gets more active with chronic drinking. So the body literally ramps up the machinery to get better at breaking down alcohol, which helps explain how people develop a higher tolerance over time. So, the real takeaway here is that our relationship with alcohol is a dynamic, two-way street. Our DNA definitely sets the initial rules of the game, but the byproducts from drinking can go right back and leave their own marks on our genetic machinery. It really leaves us with this final, fascinating question to think about. How much are our choices not just influenced by our genes, but also influencing them right back?